Welcome back to the next episode of Railway. Today we're looking back on the very first video I did, which focused on basic track connections. With the release of Railway 2 and the introduction of quad tracks, I figured it was time to revisit some of these techniques. So, in this video, I'll be showing you to make completely seamless connections from quad tracks to double tracks, and then double tracks to single tracks. I'm going to jump right into it. The key mods you need for this method are Node Controller 2 and Network Multi-Tool. Start by drawing out a length of quad track. Here I'll show you just why using simple noded connections isn't great if you're aiming for realistic railways. By connecting these tracks up, there's a heap of redundant crossovers that just don't look good. Therefore, we'll need to change these to nodeless. However, with nodeless tracks, there are no transitions at all, and this is where Node Controller comes in. You can use the offset values to shift the tracks to the left or the right of the center line. When you combine this with the precision of Network Multi-Tool, you end up with absolutely perfect transition from quad tracks to double tracks, and double tracks to single tracks. To do this, start by drawing out a straight, nodeless, double one-way track connecting with the quad tracks node. You want to go a fair distance, as a transition will be 128 meters or 8 zoning squares. Using the parallel network option within Network Multi-Tool, create parallel tracks 4 meters on either side of the center line. Use the plus and minus keys on your keyboard to change the offset, and the enter key to build. Press tab to switch to the other side, and then enter again. Use Move It to clear the central tracks. You'll see here why it's important to use double length segments of 128 meters. If you leave the gap at 64 meters, you will still get warping on the transition. No amount of changing the segment curve with Move It or adjusting the node types on either side will fix it. You need to go to 128 meters. As you draw out your connections, there's a chance that a node will be automatically created in the middle. Make sure that you remove these with the Dissolve Node option in Network Multi-Tool. Otherwise, you'll see the same warping I showed you a moment ago. Now, opening Node Controller, hold down Alt and click the segment end to open up the control dialog. The trick I'm using here is to hold Control and Alt as I scroll my mouse wheel while hovering over the outward position box. This means that each action I make applies to the other side, only inverted. The final change, if you're using noded quad track, is to change the node type to nodeless to remove these track glitches you get at the joint. If you're already using nodeless track, this won't be necessary. Next up, let's do the same, but one step smaller, taking each of these tracks down to 2 single tracks each. The process here is exactly the same. Draw out a single track from the double tracks node, and use Network Multi-Tool to offset some parallel segments. The difference here is that the offset should be 2 meters and not 4. In this example, I don't need to actively dissolve the nodes, as the game has automatically merged the existing segment into the one that I've just created. Then, repeat the same process with Node Controller of adjusting the outward position box. The measurement here is the same as we just used to create the parallel segment, 2 meters. As with the transition between quads to doubles, the result is an absolutely smooth transition from 2 double tracks down to 4 individual single track segments. Now, to prove that all of this works, I'm going to place some dummy stations and wire up some train lines and send some vehicles around. All of the pathing works automatically. The game recognises the adjusted tracks as if they were always in this new position. There's no glitching at the nodes or lines trying to jump across the tracks. Another benefit to this approach from the traditional technique in my original video is that there is no slowdown as the trains traverse the connections. Given the clean results of this approach, the stabilisation of Node Controller since my last video, and the release of Network Multi-Tool, this is now the sole technique I recommend for creating smooth transitions between different track types. Now, I'm sure that I'll be asked about Node Controller Renewal in the comments. Unfortunately, during my own testing, I found some glitches in how it handles the types of connections that I've created here. I'm going to offer to work with Sergey to see if we can find a solution, but for now I'm afraid it just doesn't work in the same way. I'm going to leave you now with some videos of trains smoothly traversing the connections we've just created. I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to sharing more tutorials with you in future. Should there be anything that you'd like to see, leave me a comment or grab me on Twitter.